Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel called zuzanareacts, where I learn all things Bharat with your help, and I just share my Slovak Central European point of view. And today's video concludes a part two of the Nilesh Oak video on the Ranveer show about kind of historical evidence behind Mahabharata and Ramayana. And the part one's truly fascinating. So I am actually dying to jump into the part two. But before we do,
Please like this video and click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification. Thank you so much for your support.
I am so ready to go.
This is where a lot of people get stumped. I'm talking about academia,
Right.
in specific,
Yes.
where they don't have responses to this.
They will call it coincidence. But how many coincidences you need? For example, Aurora Borealis will not do that. That will be another separate episode. Sugriva's Atlas, if we do it. Sugriva, in summary, knew when he is asking Vanara parties to go in 4 different directions and he's giving them landmarks like this. This is only in the east direction. He gives the landmarks in the north direction, Kailash and everything going further, the plantation of the bamboos and everything. And you
Can we talk a little bit about this?
Sure.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
What has he spoken about in the north?
In the north, he says, start with the center of India. Always, start from like a gateway of India type of thing, center of India. You go further. Now he's going across the sort of a Tibet / Tibet, where how we people do Kailash Yatra these days. He says, you will come to the Kailash area. He describes Kailash area, not a surprise. People may easily know that, but he describes it. He says, a beautiful land, cooler temperatures, no trees. And you can go and check it even now, kind of thing. After that, he says the land of many rivers, which is, if you consider which land is that is the 40 latitude today, like the western part of China, today's China, and then Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan, that area. That is called Uttara Kuru and Uttara Madra in our literature. So we say where it is. It's there in Mahabharata, it's there in Ramayana, and it is there in the Puranas. Okay. After that, now this is, remember, this is the description from 14,000 years ago. Today you can go just fine until the Arctic Sea, at least in the summer. But Sugriv, 14,000 years ago, he's saying, and I'm putting the 40 latitude just to make a point. He says, beyond Uttara Kuru and Uttara Madra, there is a land. Sugriv beautifully describes what it is, but he tells the Vanara party, do not dare go there. If you go there, you will, first thing, it's very hard to go. He describes Arctic Sea all the way. Uttara Samudra, Uttaram Payasam Nidhi. That's how he describes the Arctic Sea. But if you go there, you will find it impossible to commit back. Now, why is that? Because the ice age is taking place there. People think ice age meaning the whole earth was covered. That was not the case in last million years. But the whole entire Europe, especially Northern Europe and Northern America, they were covered with ice. So he's saying, don't go there. There's like a permafrost and tundra-like conditions. We know that from the climatology study. So he says, don't go there. So that's in the north direction. He describes Aurora Borealis. You know what that is? Northern lights.
Yeah.
So he says, even when it's a dark land, even when the sun is not there, but the place is so bright, it's beautiful. Okay, Aurora Borealis possibly is referring to. Mahabharata also describes when Arjuna goes there. Now, if you go to the south, in the southern direction, of course, the Lanka, but further he's describing the land all the way to Antarctica. Now, in the modern description, Antarctica was found only in the 18th century. If you see the maps before 18th century, the Western maps, the Antarctica is like left empty. Now, there are some maps in Italy, for example, and Turkey, who actually show the landmass there.
Interesting.
Those are from 15th century. What does that tell you? And this is guy Piri Reis. I don't know if that came into any of these things. Piri Reis was a Turkish navy man, like admiral or something. And he says he created this world map based on, this is 15th century, 16th century. So Columbus maps also he used. But then he says he used the maps of the Arab land. He used the ancient maps of Hind. And he created, and if you see that, he is showing Antarctica like a land with exact mapping that you can match with Antarctica. The map was created in 15th century,
Wow.
but history books and academia will teach you that Antarctica was discovered by Europeans in 18th century, 17 something.
Because the winners of war always rewrite history books.
Yeah, because discovery has a very different meaning in the West. Discovery meaning under the dictates, under the permission of the Christian church, the Pope, you find certain land. It doesn't matter whose it belongs to. You basically grab it. Church has given you the right to grab it for yourself, whoever discovers it, meaning literally sees it. So Vasco da Gama discovered us. It doesn't matter what rights we have, what we want. To him, it was like the India is for him to explore and exploit. And that's what he did to the best of his ability. And then the British did the same thing. So the inside their psyche, it is there. For that, we can blame them. Not the blame the current.
But the issue is also that modern academia still completely blindly looks at that system as gospel. in so many ways.
Yes, because see, academia is I gave a definition of Nassim Nicholas Taleb. See, it is a regimented thing that they want to stay there. It's a regimented thing, like
Yeah. Which is why countries have straight borders now, so that conflict remains in these countries. We remain third world. Why has Kashmir been divided in this way?
Correct.
So that we would be at war for hundreds of years and both countries would suffer.
Exactly.
And be engaged with each other.
Yeah, same thing they did in Africa.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a century-long geopolitical ploy that's actually still working.
Right.
Teaches us a lot about how human society can work also.
True.
Anyway, that we're drifting away.
Now, since I have gone three directions, let me take a minute and do the west direction.
Yeah, sure.
So going from India again, central India, Saurashtra, and going through modern day Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Syria, Romania, Sugriva is describing all these lands with a chain of mountains, a range of mountains. That's what it is. If you look at the geographical map of the world, that's what you will find. He describes all the way up to the Alps. And he says beyond, he calls it Astagiri. By the way, to Andes, he calls it Udayachala mountain, and then to Andes, to Alps, he's calling it Astagiri. So Sugriva, in effect, just to summarize, knew 14,000 years ago from Andes to Alps and from Arctic Sea to Antarctica.
What is Asta? Giri is mountain.
Asta is a setting of a.
Okay, I'm just going to stop here. This is so fascinating. In my head, I'm having this conversation like, why don't we know all about these things? Like, as in, and then it's like, of course, because like when he's saying that the 15th century Turkish cartographer discovered it, because I guess, well, you could look at it from the vicious point of view, because, the Western world just wanted to push their history and blah, blah, blah. Could be, but also like, did they even know it existed? So I think now it is just so easy for us to try and dig out information. It's much easier, but back then, it perhaps I find it hard to believe that it would be from a malicious kind of point of view, because what could you how would you find out that the Turkish person had discovered that? And I'm certain that on the contrary, like the modern day history and the way it's being taught, at least here, it's from our angle, and this is why we we don't know if historians are like paying attention in the West to these topics. And to be honest, like if you're thinking about that, at least in our part of the world, historian is not like a glamorous profession, right? Like, therefore, you will not be able to find those resources because you will have a very limited pool of people that will be able to look into that. Like, I think you have to. It just makes me think of one of my ex-university classmates. He was from a rich family, and he ended up like doing his PhD and studying and paying attention to some historical context. It's still European region, but I don't know, like if I would have stayed, which they wanted me to stay at and do a PhD at a history faculty. I don't know, like for me that was my idea of hell. Like I needed to leave the country ASAP, and imagine like I don't come from a rich family, and he did, so he could have afforded to have a like a small salary, but for me it wasn't even about the money. I needed to leave the country. I didn't feel like I fit here. But it just makes the point I'm trying to make, that perhaps either you're subsidized by someone that you're able to live a decent life and you're able to explore these topics, or these things just simply get unexplored. There's just a very tiny group in the West of people that would be paying attention, and and everyone has their preferred period or preferred context that they look into. So this is why perhaps we also, I don't know why, I'm just trying to draw some sort of a, in my head, conversations like where this could be coming from, but this is pretty fascinating stuff, and we just simply don't know about it. And the thing is, for me, I really enjoy my journey with you guys because I get to learn so many things that was not privy to. We don't study, like, yeah, we do memorize a lot of stuff. I think a lot of pointless stuff, but wow, I'm actually really so grateful to you guys that I can discover these things with you. I love it. I truly I love it. Let's continue. My rants are.
The sun,
Mountains.
yeah. Udaya,
Ah,
Asta.
okay.
Yeah,
Where
rising
the
and
mountains
set,
where the sun sets.
sunsets. From the point of view of India, if you think of it, with the
Sure.
India in between.
Sure.
Yeah.
In the same way that he's described bats in South America, has he described other megafauna or people in other lands?
People, especially in the Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, that area, oh, beautiful descriptions. I mean, we can go for hours. Beautiful description. Like, he describes the folks whose ears, and now you can see that in Africa today, ears have come down to, like, to their vest or something, or the lips coming down, which you see in Africa.
Body
You have seen?
modification.
Yeah, body modifications. Yeah, like this. And in Indonesia proper, also in the Papua New Guinea, you actually see people putting all kinds of paraphernalia, just like a feathers and decorating themselves and so on. And those descriptions come there. Yeah.
Anything else about megafauna?
Megafauna, not much. At least not that I recall right now.
Okay. The question that's popping up in my head is the whole Hanumanji jumping across the ocean and then meeting an asur on the way to Lanka.
Yeah.
And then slaying that asur.
Yeah. So my on the way to Lanka, right?
Yeah.
My co-researcher, again, amazing researcher, Rupa Bhati. She's out of Gujarat. She's an architect by profession, but this is what we do: engineer and then do something. She has her interpretation of it is that as Hanuman was going to Lanka, and not to Sri Lanka, by the way, that will be open another box, so I won't do that right now.
We will be doing that.
But it's referring to actually going, think of this as going east of Maldives. That's where Ravana's Lanka was. Right now, there is nothing, just a deep ocean.
West of Maldives.
East of Maldives.
Yes.
Because
the
zero prime meridian
Understood.
That goes through Kurukshetra, Sthaneshwar, Ujjain, Vatapi, and Lanka. Lanka is 0, 0. 0 longitude, 0 latitude kind of thing, right on the equator. So that's where we have to go, Maldives. We have to just go east of Maldives. Right now, there is a deep ocean with a geological anomaly. Again, we won't open that box right now. It won't tell us much other than something funny happened there.
What do you mean something funny happened?
The earth crust there below the ocean is one of the thinnest. And we don't know why that happened, but it's just one of the geological anomaly. So that's something to be noted down for future research.
Why do geologists believe that it's thin?
They don't know. That's why it's an anomaly and sort of a mystery and, research.
What if you dig through?
It will be interesting thing to do.
Need a geologist on the show to
that's
ask about that.
That's right.
So effectively, what you're saying is either there was an island there that got submerged.
Yeah. Or it even possibly, again, Rupa Bhattiji has done great research, many similar things, or because of, say, and I'm going to come to that question that you asked about Hanuman running into these individual creatures. Very volcanically, possibly very active area then. And there are evidence that going back to only 2 centuries, 3 centuries, it has happened in Indonesia. A small island with an active volcano broke into pieces. So actually, when it broke, it split, it moved on the surface of the ocean, so to say. Literally, the islands became separated from each other. Something might have happened, and then it would have disappeared, and Maldives and the whole Lakshadweep could be pieces of that. I mean, that's all speculation for
if
now.
It exploded, it would have gone in the east direction also, and perhaps joined that whole Papua New Guinea.
That's too far. That's too far, right? Where we are looking at, from Papua New Guinea or Indonesia would be too far. But this is a possibility.
Do you think that the modern island of Sri Lanka was not a part of the ancient Ramayana?
No, it would be part of ancient Ramayana. It wasn't Ravana's Lanka. And there is a sufficient evidence for that. For example, Sri Lanka, I don't know if you know this, but the name Sri Lanka was given in 1972. Now, what happens is, see, for example, the land of Sri Lanka could be part of Ravana's kingdom. For all it matters, we don't know that. Majority of India was part of Ravana's kingdom. Like the whole Maharashtra was a part of Ravana's kingdom based on this description. But what we know is that even recent histories, like going back to only 1,000 years, when people are writing, and our Puranas, many times they will say, like person living from their Lanka, then going to this island, then going to this island. In the list, they will refer to Simvaladweep, which is the old name of Sri Lanka.
Simvaladweep.
Because Sinhalese moved there. I mean, the
Sinhalese,
right? Correct, right? So that is a very recent. I'm talking last 1,000 years. But my point is, even in the last 1,000 years, they are referring to Lanka as a separate place from Sinhaladweep.
So effectively, here, you are disagreeing with extreme right-wing portals, which highlight the Ram Setu as one of the most important parts of Ramayana history. You're not refuting the Ramayana 100%,
correct,
but you're trying to look at it from a more evidence-based geographical perspective. That the island of Sri Lanka is not Ravan's Lanka that we hear about in Ramayana.
Right.
But Ravan's Lanka was possibly an island that was accompanied with a lot of volcanic activity that perhaps got submerged, just like that Atlantis story that we've heard about.
Yes.
And I remember reading this report way back. This is when I was a teenager and websites used to be very popular in the mid 2000s. Someone had written an article about how Atlantis possibly could be Lanka.
It doesn't need to be. Actually, again, if you have to go there, we have to pull another graph and, okay.
Go for it.
Okay, go to Google. Do Paul Blanchon. Okay, so yeah, the same guy. By the way, he did his PhD in the same university where I was doing my master's in Canada. Amazing individual. Now, what we need is one of his paper. Okay, reef drowning during the last glaciation. Hold on, just give me a second. What year is that?
1995. 1995.
Perfect. Click on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
And you're going to be fascinated. I'm going to show you 3 Atlantis.
Damn.
One is Ravana's Lanka. Second one is the Plato's Atlantis. Third one is Krishna's Dwarka. Right on one chart, if we find this. Okay?
Reef drowning during the last deglaciation.
So, yes.
Evidence for catastrophic
Rise
sea
event.
level rise and ice sheet collapse. This is the global warming that happened in that phase. And by the way, the global warming we see today is accelerated because of pollution, but it is also an act of nature, taking away nothing from the reality of global warming. It's a massive problem environmentally speaking today. But the earth goes through cycles of cooling and warming up, which is why we see ice ages in the first place, and deglaciation, which is what he's talking about. The question I have for you is, was this nature based, or was it because of some catastrophic event like a meteor strike?
No, it doesn't. No, it's not named meteor strike. It is that global warming that has begun in the last 20,000 years. Again, it's not some global warming the first time. No, the whole cycles based on astronomy as well that's going on. So last 20,000 years ago, why do we say that? Because that was the LGM, last glacial maximum. And since then, water sea levels are rising. Okay, so the sea levels are rising very smoothly, but they are interrupted by these CRE, catastrophic rise event. So otherwise it's going like this, but it's like this. Okay, so these are the 3.
As in, temperatures warm up gradually according to the natural course of things.
Correct.
But sometimes events happen because of which suddenly the temperature will increase.
Simple example would be, say there's a block of ice sitting and it's slowly melting. But a point comes when it cracks and a big block falls down.
Okay, gotcha.
Something like that. So suddenly that's going to create waves into the water.
And then just that block of ice breaking down will create a lot of weather changes. It'll recreate maps,
changes the water levels, migrations of people, loss of life, and
everything that people are afraid that global warming will cause in the 2030s and 40s could happen in one shot.
Absolutely.
If nature wills it, like it happened back then.
Catastrophic.
Geologically speaking, can this happen randomly even now?
Yes.
That's what people fear.
Yes.
Where environmentally conscious people fear this exactly.
Correct. And see, environmentally, we should be cautious irrespective of this global warming and sea levels rising, because we need a clean earth. And earth is dying, in many ways. But in terms of the sea level rise, we may be close to how high it gets. Okay. That is not to say be very comfortable in Mumbai and Los Angeles and New York. No, we should worry.
Like it's going to get worse.
It might get worse before it gets better. But we are almost, if you look at the 100,000 years of record, we are almost there in terms of the highest sea level.
Right.
Possibility.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not letting you continue. Again, this is for better understanding. We had a meteorologist
Please.
yesterday.
Yes.
He's one of the most reputed ones in the world. His name is Dr. Jagdish Shukla, and he's contributed a lot to the Indian climate change movement, etc. And he's contributed a lot to even the Indian science scene. Anyway, not getting into that. He spoke about how the way we're going right now, if we don't stop polluting the earth and using fossil fuels, then by 2030, we're going to do irreversible damage to the earth. So we only have 6 years left until we actually see perhaps a bit of an apocalyptic situation. Only 6 years.
That wouldn't surprise me. I would say similar predictions has come in the past, and that's not to discount what he's saying. Actually, I'm so glad he's saying this. But the human nature is such that humans will not understand. Many of them have no luxury to understand with their daily survival things. So it is for people who have a luxury of thinking like this to do something about it. But what will happen is the earth is also extremely vibrant, and it is capable of reversing itself. But that's not to discount his point. Actually, I don't know if it's a 6 years, because similar predictions I have even heard in 1990s, and we are still around, but maybe not as healthy as we ought to be, or things like that. So it is happening. I mean, the oceans are dying in a certain way. The sea life is going away. With the organic fertilizers, the land is getting very, very bad. So like Sadhguruji's movement for save soil. These are all very good initiatives.
Now let's carry on.
Okay, we are talking Ravana's Lanka right now.
Sure.
But where is the dirt archaeology evidence? This is dirt archaeology evidence. You see, for example, that vertical line. This is basically, so x-axis is the time, y-axis is the rise in the sea level.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now you see the vertical line where you see it. Okay, the most vertical line that you see there in the
the vertical rise.
Vertical rise, correct? If you draw a straight vertical line above there, it is going to hit at 5,525. I mean, maybe you can find 5,525 and just draw a line. Mahabharata text says that Krishna's Dwarka was flooded and destroyed by gushing sea waters 36 years after the Mahabharata war. 5561 plus 36, we have to do minus 36 because of BC, 5525 BCE. In the middle of 6th millennium BCE, which is 5525 BCE, 5500 BCE, there was this is Arabian Sea data. Dwarka is on the Arabian Sea, west coast of India. Sudden sea level rise, listen to this, of 15 meters. Imagine 15 meters happen in Mumbai. Forget 15 meters. 3 meters would be disastrous. 15 meters sudden sea level rise in the middle of 6th millennium BCE in the Arabian Sea. That's Krishna's Dwarka getting destroyed.
2 meters is about a 6'5" or 6'6"
Correct, 6
guy.
feet, simple 6 feet, yeah.
And you're saying 15 meters.
So 50 feet.
7 times that much. 7 6.5 foot guys kept one above the other.
Yes.
That's how much sea levels rose.
Yes.
Wow.
All over the world?
That's the interesting part. We can go around the world if you like. But this one is only the Arabian Sea, which has a direct connection with the Krishna's Dwarka.
I wonder why, keeping physics in mind, it wasn't all over the world.
Great point. Actually, a brilliant question. And I'm not doing this to praise you.
I'll still take it.
The brilliant question. Do you know why? Because there is a phenomenon called subsidence or subsidence. Whereas because water is a liquid, you would imagine that around the world they are all connected, and in an equilibrium state they should attain the same height.
Yeah.
True. But the local landmass with respect to the ocean level is also changes.
Okay. God, because land can be shaped differently.
Locally, right? Because these are the tectonic plates, different tectonic plates.
Right.
And
some pieces of land might block out the water like a dam.
Correct. And actually land goes down. That has happened in Dholavira in Gujarat. The land has come up in our times. So the ocean is no longer there in Dholavira. 2 reasons. Actually, water level is coming up. So why the water went away from Dholavira? Because the land has risen there. But so this is Dwarka, Krishna's Dwarka.
What Sir is effectively saying is the crust of the earth is not like an eggshell. It's like a combination of different pieces of earth that go all around, float around, but also go up and down.
Correct. And then there are many other sub-phenomena. Like we call it, this is a tectonic, like the tectonic land, but there is something called earth crust displacement. Also earth crust displacement, like an orange skin moving over the core of the orange without moving the core of the orange. Wow. That's another phenomenon. Something else. Depending on the quality of the clay and everything, what sinks, what comes up in an individual area changes. It's a very complex phenomenon. Okay. Now remember the time of Ramayana.
Okay.
There is no written evidence, but in the tradition of India, Kerala, I have seen from a Kerala novelist. Actually, he used my dating and wrote a novel. I mean, he wrote his novel, used my dating of 12,209. Okay, Trivin Nair. Okay. So 12,000. Now remember that KA is like 1,000 years before today. Today. So to get to
14.2 K is 14,200 years.
Is it 12.2? Like 12.2 BC, 12,209, exactly that time. Now remember, because it's a scientific thing, it always has a standard error of plus minus 150 years and so on. So around that area, you see what is happening. So x-axis is time, y-axis is the sea level rise. So we have to start from here, from the right, 20,000 years ago. And we are coming towards the left as our today's time.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So slowly water level is rising, but at 14.2, which is Ramayana times, suddenly there is a sea level rise of 13.5 meters and then plus minus whatever it is.
Which is probably what sank original
Lanka, Ravana's Lanka. Now this is a speculation in the sense there is no explicit reference to the destruction of Ravana's Lanka. But if you come to Mahabharata, there is no clear description of Ravana's Lanka. Whereas in Ramayana times, Rama is going there. In Mahabharata times, Sahadev calls Bhima's son, Ghatotkacha, and says, please go on my behalf to Vibhishan and just get his permission when they are doing the Rajasya Yajna. So this is called, there is another field, I mean, academics should know that, called hagiography, or sort of think of it as a fill in the blanks. When all the information is not there, still somebody is going to ask, what happened to Ravana's Lanka during the Mahabharata times? So the narrators has filled it with this. But here, quickly, so that is that possibly the loss of Ravana's Lanka, that 14.2 event, CRE1.
Right.
Now, do you remember when Atlantis was gone? If you listen to Plato, in his time, he said that happened 9,000 years ago. Now, Plato's time is 2,000 years ago, which means 9,000 BC is what we need to go to. 9,000 years ago before Plato is 11,000 years ago from today. Look at the CRE2, 11.5 event.
Damn.
Huh? That's Atlantis.
This is somewhere between the time period of Ramayana and Mahabharata.
Between Ramayana and Mahabharata.
Has anything like this been spoken about?
Think of that. That's the end of Younger Dryas.
Right. That's the massive meteor strike that happened. Not all of these jumps are meteor strikes, but that one is.
Yeah. And I can explain. I mean, I would not do that today. I can explain based on Paul Blanchard's research and some of the other research that I have done on this, what caused this. But it's a very complex phenomenon. It's like a geology going deep down 200 levels.
Okay.
So
it's not as simple as a meteor strike?
No, meteor strike for CRE2 possibly. But what caused CRE1? And what caused CRE3? See, for us on the map, it looks the same, but the causes are very different. Just as example,
Understood.
the causes for CRE1, CRE2 are driven from the northern hemisphere, like ice melting in North America and Western Europe. The last one is caused by Antarctica.
CRE3.
Yes.
Which is the Dwarka one.
Okay. So, I mean, that has to do with understanding dynamics at a different level. That's not a subject today, not why. But now the CRE3, look at the timing. 7.6 Ka, subtract 2000, that's 5.6, 5600 BCE, plus minus 130 years. That's the standard error there. So anywhere in that time, and 5600 BC plus minus 130 years, 5525 falls right there.
Wow.
And so you asked me the question, is the sea level rise the same everywhere? The answer is no. This is in Barbados. This is in the West Indies, Caribbean. So there, the dynamics of the land and the sea is different than what is
in Barbados.
This data is from Barbados.
Oh, gotcha.
From West Indies.
Got it. As in
so
the whole graph.
There, like in Arabian Sea, I showed you 15-meter rise. There, it is only 6.5-meter rise. Exactly same time.
Got it. So there is an effect all over the globe. It's just different in different parts.
Very good. I have done research, shown 30 different places around the globe for 5525 BCE.
Wow.
Decisive, no ifs, no buts evidence for flooding and destruction of Krishna.
Wow.
This is real archaeology and the real work of a real historian.
And a dirt archaeology. That's why I said I have nothing against archaeologists. In fact, I am archaeologist. How can I be against myself? Again, the 3 steps. The first step is great. Second step, dating is great. The third step, when they connect the dots, they don't even go that far, because in their subjective mind, they, meaning not just archaeologists, people in general, those who don't believe in deep antiquity for human civilization, they say, how is something possible from a human perspective happening 7,000 years ago? We were monkeys. Well, that is their problem. Their premise is wrong. Therefore, they don't even think of going that far. In fact, the beauty of Ramayana and Mahabharata is once we astronomically figured this out, therefore, I'm looking for what caused the destruction of Ravana's Lanka and Atlantis and Krishna's Dwarka. Otherwise, why would you even go and look at this graph? That will be a waste of time to somebody who does not believe any great human civilization was happening more than 5,000 years ago. The person will not even look here.
We had a member of the Marcos, which is the commando unit of the Indian Navy, on the show, whose job was to actually dive and explore Dwarka. And he didn't reveal a lot on the podcast. We actually didn't end up releasing the podcast because he revealed very less on the show. And I felt like it wasn't good enough for an episode by itself. But he was convinced that he was actually exploring the Dwarka of that age. And he's a scuba diver. So I asked him, did you go inside the structure? He said it's extremely dangerous to go inside that city structure because it under the ocean, it degrades and almost becomes sand. So you can get buried in that sand debris. But when you touch it, it can actually disintegrate. And so he's like, we're categorically told not to explore it too much. But I think that's as far as the Dwarka explorations have gone. Right? And I know that Graham Hancock himself also keeps coming to India to explore Dwarka and Tamil Nadu.
Yes. And by the way, do you know that what Graham Hancock and the geologist Glenn Milne, he's a Canadian, just like me. I'm a Canadian and American and Indian, by the way. So I have communicated with Glenn Milne a lot on this geology data. So Graham Hancock and Glenn Milne, when they researched Dwarka and the time period they came up with, do you know what that time period is? 5525 BC. They show, I mean, if you see the Graham Hancock film on this underworld or whatever it is, the disappearance of an island on the west coast of Gujarat, that is Dwarka, and I agree with him completely. It's there in my research too. It disappeared between 7,900 and 6,900 BP, which is to basically say our date falls, 5525 falls right between. So then he moved on. It is too sad, because if you would have stuck to it, now see, this is the challenge. Okay. So for example, I don't know. I mean, Graham Hancock does so much more research. He's always exploring more fields, so he may not have a time. But it surprises me that he has done the research, and only if it takes the pain of just opening my book, which many people have suggested to him. I don't know why he has not opened. That's like a bingo, another reward for him for all the hard work that he has done. For some reason, he has not connected the dots. I don't know why. But whatever he claimed for Dwarka is what I have shown. But from what? From all the archaeology data, but also from the narrative data, also from the astronomy data. So literary, the narrations, the terrestrial and the celestial. So this is a terrestrial evidence. This is a terrestrial. And it's happening in 30 different places. You go to Vietnam, you find it. Black Sea in Turkey. The formation of Black Sea Again, maybe we'll do another one on this separate. Dwarka, Krishna's Dwarka is an episode by itself. The formation of Black Sea, do you know when it was formed? You can take a good guess now. 5525 BCE. Now, this is a very fascinating story that possibly your audience would love to hear. So I have written my book, first book, When Did the Mahabharata War Happen? The Mystery of Arundhati in 2011. And I'm full-time working for a big corporation that time. So I'm not talking much about it other than doing my research. Fast forward to 2015 or so, I have written my second book also, The Historic Ram. A prisoner from Tennessee prison writes an email to me, and he's been caught for some pod or something which was not allowed at that time there. So he writes, and he's writing something, and I'm not exactly understanding what he's referring to, but he says, everyone is talking about the 6th millennium BCE, and now is this new guy, he's referring to me. Oh, he's also talking about something happening. And I asked him, because I was fascinated, I responded to him, says, who else is talking about this? So he sends me the name of the book, and immediately I went and pulled that book from the library. The book is written by 2 geologists from Columbia University, New York, okay, Ryan and Pittman. And they have given some name like a Noah's Ark or Finding Noah's Flood or something. What they have shown is the creation of the Black Sea, which is, if you think of geographically, I don't know if you want to bring like a geography of the Europe kind of thing. Perfect. Excellent. Beautiful. So you have the Black Sea there, right? So you see the word Spain and Portugal. Just below that is that Gibraltar area. That is the entrance to Mediterranean from Atlantic. So now imagine this is a global event. This 5525 BC Krishna's Dwarka is a global event everywhere. Like I show you the Mediterranean and Caribbean and all that. So the sea level rising into Atlantic, the water is gushing into Mediterranean. From Mediterranean, think where the Greece is. That is the Aegean Sea. You come further to the Greece near that Bulgaria or whatever written, that is the Sea of Marmara. And now if you want to expand just to the Black Sea, so where the Istanbul is written, that is the Sea of Marmara on the south and the Black Sea is on the north. There is that Bosphorus channel, basically. So all the force of the salt water broke through that Bosphorus channel, and the salty water started pouring to the north into now what is Black Sea, but it was essentially a sweetwater lake coming from the there. And using 9 different scientific parameters, Ryan and Pittman from Columbia University have shown that this event was a sudden event, and it happened 5525 BCE. And the book is out there. So this prisoner from the Tennessee prison sent me the information about this, and I'm saying, my God, I'm researching this for like a 15 plus 20 years now, and I did not know anything about this. Again, the point I want to drive is, unless I'm looking for evidence for 5525 BCE, even if somebody presents it to me, I will not see it. Right? So you should have a possibilities. So if people in their subjective foolish judgment close their eyes and say nothing happened before 5000 BCE, right, even if there is evidence, they don't know what to do with it.
Because a lot of their life's work and lectures and public talks will be proved slightly wrong, if not entirely wrong.
And the thing with that is, in science, actually, see, all the revolutions happen by proving the previous theory wrong. And actually, we should rejoice it. See, if somebody comes tomorrow and comes up with a year which is different than 5561 BCE and can scientifically and logically prove that is a better date than mine, I should be happy and not just somehow fight with that person. Now, what is very clear is that date, I can tell you, would not be any time after 4500 BC because Arundhati Vasishtha observation will not work. There is a Bhishma Nirvana. I wrote a whole book on that, which were only 1.5 pages in my first book. And I thought people will get goosebumps. Nobody got a goosebump in 2011, not by 2015. I said, I need to write another book. And now people get goosebumps when they read Bhishma Nirvana, because it's another piece of evidence from the Mahabharata text. Do you know what it says? Actually, Arundhati Vasishtha gives you a time bracket like 10,000 BC to 4500 BC.
As in the position of the stars, Arundhati and Vasishtha.
Only in between that observation is true, what is said in Mahabharata. Bhishma Nirvana evidence gives you like 5125 BC to 6722 BC, a time period of 1500 years. It says Mahabharata war can only happen here based on the Mahabharata text evidence.
1 second, I'll give you one high five for this. When I used to see Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson's work, I always think there needs to be some Indian person who needs to go down and do the same kind of work, but from an India context. Honor of my life meeting you today. Just want to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you for a lowdown. This was a lot of fun. That's what I'll say. I hope you enjoyed this real history special.
Okay, so I'll just stop here. I mean, what a fascinating conversation they had. I am a sucker for history as well. So for me, it was like so mind-blowing, especially when they were talking about Atlantis, because I think I mentioned again in other videos before that Some theories are that people from Atlantis went, the ones that saved themselves actually went to India, and that kind of how it started. But now it, like, time-wise, does not really add up. So it really, wow, this is just mind-blowing and fascinating. Obviously, again, as he was talking about, like, I guess we will never know the truth. And I think, well, all we can do is just to, you know, open our minds to perspectives and look at it critically from our end. And when he was talking about the fact that the professors or whoever don't want to disapprove theory, well, imagine that you're working on something all your life, right? And you are a human, right? You have your ego, you have your sense of pride. You discovered, you kind of live off that ego. You discovered something, you're consider someone in circles. It will be just on a human level hard to retract. But I feel like these kind of subjects should be serving rather humanity, but it would have to come from us, you know, and you know, when you're doing that kind of work, trying to maybe feel like being humble about it, that whatever you're thinking and believing may not be right in the end, and you have to be okay with that. It's a tricky one, right? Like when you're trying to evaluate information critically, you really need to understand the context inside out, and you know, sometimes we go, and it's just like a ridiculous example of YouTube. You might be looking at me and you might be thinking, oh, you know, she's like this or she's like that, but you're only seeing what I'm saying in me from a certain context, and you have to appreciate other factors, like, you know, your belief system, where you grew up, your economic conditions, like just so many other factors that are in play. So when one person does one gesture for someone because of how they've been conditioned in life, they believe this is what it means. For another, it means something else, right? So you can never truly really kind of know what and how to interpret that. That is just why it fascinates me, because with these ancient things, and this is why I love like very ancient history, because you can never truly know. You can never truly know. With the recent history, I still don't think that you can, or politics, you can truly know. But you're able to a bit more verify your facts as you go along. But facts are pointless without understanding the context. So because we engage in context, like we're not separate, and so it is 10 times harder to try to interpret it for eras that are just so far out, but it nonetheless is fascinating. So he appears to be like a pseudo archaeologist or something like that, because he doesn't have a degree. So I would love to know, because I don't really know him. I know you guys a lot ask about this podcast and about him. I just wanted to gauge a bit more of a context, like how do you perceive him? Do you perceive him credible, not so credible? How do you feel about his theories and the research he is doing? So please do let me know in the comments below. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video with me. If you did enjoy, please give a thumbs up, share, like, and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, please do take care. I am sending much love. Bye bye.